Welcome back to SciTech Intermountain Earthworks training videos. In this video today, I'm going to show you how to do a bucket measure up on a NexGen excavator. I've done a previous video on a bucket measure up on an excavator that was for just a Earthworks system, to where you did it all through the Trimble screen. On a NexGen, you have to do the bucket measure up information on the actual CAT screen, and then it'll correlate over to the Trimble screen. What do I mean when I say NexGen? What I've got here is Granite Construction's CAT 323, but a NexGen, if anybody ever says that, means that it has factory 2D, factory sensors on it. So right here on the boom, you've got this square with the cable to it. Looks like a sensor. It is. And on the stick here, you've got one right here on the stick. These are all factory sensors. They're not Trimble sensors. The next one is actually down behind this knuckle right here, so it doesn't look like the other two. That means that this machine has factory 2D capability, so when we wire up a machine for Earthworks on a NexGen, we just have to add the receivers, the GPS receivers, the radio, and the TD inside, the EC520, just those components. But we are not physically adding the sensors out here. So in order to use this married system, if you will, our system, the Trimble system, has to talk through the CAT sensors to get grade out to the bucket. That's the only reason that you would do it on the CAT side when you actually change blade wear. So if the cutting edge, whatever you've got on this one, has a gummer blade, a board on it, if you have teeth, a blade, whatever it is, if you go to check into an elevation just like this, you're gonna still see the elevation on the Trimble screen. But if you have a good bucket measure up and all you need to do is adjust for a blade wear or a new set of teeth or whatever, you just make that adjustment on the CAT. And I'm going to show you how to do that, and then also how to show you to do a measure up on this bucket. So let's go ahead and check the bucket to see how close it is in 3 different positions to this elevation right here. The other thing is I'm actually going to use really basic tools to do the measure up. I've just got a basic tape measure right here, and I've got a basic level, and then I've got a 2x4. And I know what you're thinking is, why is he using a 2x4? That's because not everybody carries around the plumb bob and the magnets in order to do a couple measure ups. Normally you would put a magnet right here on this sensor, or this knuckle, and actually drape it down, but you don't do it on that one right here. For example, on this one, since it's got a quick coupler, the pictures in the CAT screen are going to show you a bucket, but this is the pivot point right here on an excavator with a quick coupler, so it's going to be there. A lot of us that do these all the time, and you can get it if you want, is a plumb bob with a magnet, to where you can do it by yourself, do it really quick. But I'm going to use a 2x4 and a level just to show you, because those are anything you can basically find on a job site to use. So let's go ahead and check this bucket in. Okay, so now that we're in the machine, I'm going to go ahead and just lift up, and I'm going to set down. I'm going to set into 3 different positions out here. I'm going to kick the bucket all the way back. The machine is relatively flat, and I'm going to check in my left tip to that point right there. Make sure that I'm on the left tip on the screen here, and then on the bottom here you can see what my elevation is for the left tip. We got a 4240, and it's bouncing between 25 and 30, and my number out there is 30. So this bucket is really close already. The way that you know if it's actually measured upright is not just one position. Now what you do is pick it up and just roll the bucket maybe halfway out from what it was and set down on the same spot. Right there, we got a 4240.25. It's staying there. That's okay, it's within 500ths. Now you go ahead and roll the bucket relatively flat. You're not going to be able to get it perfectly flat and hit the same spot, but if you do that, you're going to see what your number is right there. And right there, because I kind of curled that cutting edge a little bit, I'm going to set up and pick up right there and then set right down on it. So right there, we got a 40.35. So between those 3 different positions, we're a range of or about 500ths to almost a 10th. So this bucket is really, really close, but let's go ahead and do a full bucket measure up on it. So in order to do that, I just usually just set the bucket in a position, if I'm doing it myself, that I can just start doing these measurements and reach it from a good point out there. So now what we're going to do is on the CAT screen right here, in this working screen right here, once it's up to temperature and it's going, I don't have a screen mirror for this, so the video hopefully can show you. On your main screen, you've got a couple menus, but the one that has, it's kind of like a waffle. If you click that one, it goes into the menu, and you can go down to the bottom right here and find Bucket Working Tool. Now you can go in here and find the one that's already in here. You can either find the 48 inch that's here or a 42 inch. What I'm going to do is start a brand new bucket measure up on this one right here. This one that says bucket. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it so that the center of that actually has the dot right in the middle of it. Now I'm going to go ahead and go to the arrow right here. Once you do that, it's going to give you this little warning, making sure that you're aware of the surroundings, what's going on, and right off the bat, it's going to let us name it. We're going to give it a name. So in here, we're going to click in here and go to the arrow to the right, and we're going to name it what we want. .38 inch, we're going to hit OK at the bottom right here. So now it's named, and you can see right here that I got to do a bucket measure up. So if you go into bucket measure up, it's going to warn you that you got to have all these things set up, and go to the bottom of this and fasten the seatbelt when you're in the machine. You just go through the setup here and hit OK. Now right off the bat, it's going to start with all these different entered levels or entered lengths. And not everybody has these memorized. I don't even have them memorized. The beauty of this is there's a help button right here. If you hit the help button, it's going to show you what it's asking for. What it's asking for is G to H. So if we just back up, make sure that you're in feet right here too. I've done a bucket measure up on one that I didn't notice myself that it was in meters and it was off. So if you're doing it in US Survey feet, make sure you put that in there. And then once again, coming back to the main screen, if you don't know what G to H is, hit the help button. And then it tells you what you want. Now, notice the image right here. The image is showing the bucket itself. So you'd think it wants the measurement of the bucket. Yes, it does, but because of a quick coupler, it wants it from the quick coupler. So we're going to go ahead and back out of that, and we're going to go and measure this up and do it. Put it in there. So what I measure in here, I'm not going to measure between the bucket right here. I'm going to measure this point right here. So you just set up in the corner in here, set up right here. I'm going to go 146. So we're going to go ahead and go 146, and then you put a 0 to move it over right there. So once we're good there, you hit OK, and just systematically go through these. So now G to H is done. We're going to go ahead and go to the next one. G to J. That one is asking from the tip to that point right there. So let's go ahead and measure that. I usually start down here at the bottom and run up to the middle point right there. Sometimes you got to put your foot against this to hold it. So right there is 608. So we'll back out of that screen and we will go 608 and then put a 0 to move it over. And just once again, just pay attention to what each screen shows you. Don't push too fast. Now these are the dimensions of the bucket so that it shows more on the screen, so G to Q. This one is a little bit of a just look at the back of the bucket right here and look at basically where it starts to curve around. If you have two people, sometimes it's easier. I'm going to go 476. So we'll go back one and just put 476. And an extra 0 to push it over. Now we're going to do a G to Q. Just look at the help button. Go from that same point to the bucket tip. I'm going to go 586. So we will put 586 in here. G to Z, what's that one asking for? Now that's the flat part of the bucket. And that's because if you want to grade with the autos on the flat part of the bucket, you got to make sure you know where that is. And it is a judgment call. Basically get down there and look and see where it starts to curve and make the call yourself. So I'm going to go with about right here. So I'm going to go 450. So we'll put 450. Add a 0 to move it over. Hit OK. Hit OK. Now enter bucket width. Once again, look at what it's asking. You'll want to go to the widest point there. I'm going to go ahead and enter that in. I already know it's 38, but I'm just showing you. But 38 inches, you want to know what that is in tenths if you're doing it in feet. So that's 315. 3:15. Okay, then we hit this. The next one is a plumb bob. So what it's asking for is there's two different positions we have to put the bucket in. So if we hit help, it's going to show you that it wants to have the main pin on the stick and the cutting edge straight up and down from each other. When you're doing this by yourself, it does take a minute. You got to come back in and out. That's why I want to show you how to do it with a different, because if you look, my level isn't going to make it. Yeah, you can drop a plumb bob, but you can also just simply use a board, right? So just use a board to basically extend it however you want to do it. Just make sure that you're using the same exact size of the board. This one I have verified is pretty straight, right? So I'm just going to set it up here, and you can see that it's got to go out a little bit. So this is a little bit of a game of picking it up, moving it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't necessarily matter where the stick is when you do this. I mean, I wouldn't suggest you do it way out there or way in front of you. I just get it kind of centered right here, and just play the game. What you're going to do is you're going to line up the center of this pin right here and get it to where it sets down here, straight down. So you can see I still got a little ways to go. Once you get it right where it needs to be, which is right there, my level is on the side of this, I'm touching the cutting edge, and I'm right at the center of that pin, and I'm level there. Now what you do is you let it do a step. So it's going to read this. Once you back out of the screen and go here and hit OK, it's going to read that sensor reading right then. It's calibrating. Now the next one is plumb bucket wear. So it's asking you to set the bucket just like that. This one is gonna require you to kind of extend out a little way, so you can kick the bucket all the way out, and then you're gonna want to go out until the back of that bucket is pretty well flat. So what this one's asking for is to have the back of the bucket straight up and down with a level, but you don't want to do it up here on the back up here. There's the main board, which is down here, is where you want to basically set it to. So once you basically get it out to this point, just come out and check. And I went just a hair far, so we'll just bring it back in just a little bit. So we'll come out and check one more time. And you can see right there, the bubble is just a hair far. I brought it in just a little bit too far, so we'll bring it in just a little bit. Okay, so once we're to where we need to, I'll back out of the screen showing me what to do, and I'll hit OK, and right here, it'll do a calibrate. So it's calibrating, and it's going to ask just a couple more questions. One is the J to J1. This is kind of your blade wear length. So this is where it's a little different between the Trimble and the Cat. Is the Trimble wants you to tell what the difference is between the webbing, and I'll show you what that looks like. So when you do it through a Trimble Earthworks system, not a NexGen, it basically wants a length from the very bottom here up to the webbing is what I call it, in between. That's the length. On a NexGen, there's a seam that comes down the side of the bucket, and it ends right there. So on the inside of the bucket, it's basically that weld mark right there. So all you need to do is just measure in between those two, however you want to do it. One other thing to pay attention to is that you're not smiley faced on the edges. Make sure that you're not too worn on the edges. This one isn't too bad, but what I'm going to do is hold my foot right against the edge of this, and I'm going to run up and I'm going to look. And it's about 244. That's my number. So for the cutting. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put 244. Hit OK, and then hit OK one more time, and it's going to show you that it's complete. Please press this one to return back. So now the bucket is measured up. If you ever had a situation where they put a new teeth on it, or a cutting edge or spade teeth, and they just changed that, you don't have to do a new bucket measure up. All you need to do in this menu right here is go down to the one, dimensions. So in dimensions is the only one you have to do to bench into an elevation to change anything. You don't have to do the full bucket measure up. Now it does allow you to change the different things in here, but the one that you're most concerned about is the very bottom of that list. So there's J to J1, original, which is the number that we put in just now when we did the bucket measure up. But there's the J to J1 current. So if you have to change it to match an elevation on the job site, just change J to J1 current right there. And then hit OK or back out of it and you're good to go. So Let's go ahead and check this bucket out now. Okay, now that we set down on it, you can see right here I've got a 42-40-30 and I've got a 40-30 out there. So let's go ahead and just check a couple different positions there. So once again, we'll check maybe halfway. So there's a 40-25. It's about 5/100ths difference. And let's just check one more if we put it down here like this. So 42-40-30. So we're about the same as we were before. But that's good. Between those three different positions out there, I've got basically within 5/100ths, and that's good enough for an excavator. I have so many people that tell me excavators are just to get close and they're only within 6 inches. That is not true. I have this machine seeing the elevation in three different positions there within 5/100ths. That's just a hair over a half an inch. These machines are extremely accurate and you can cut it once right the very first time. So don't ever hesitate when you need to do a bucket measure up to actually just use tools on the job site. One more thing I was going to mention is if you do the bucket measure up and you don't get a good result and you do it a couple times, whatever it is, and you still don't hit those measurements between the three different bucket positions, what could be happening on your NexGen is these sensors up here can be out of calibration, and they can be calibrated with just like a 2-foot level or 1-foot level and going through the CAT screen. We can do that on a different video, but just don't rack your brain over if this doesn't work and you've done it right multiple times. It could be other things on the machine. So hopefully this video helps from Site Tech Intermountain on bucket measure up on a NexGen excavator. My name is Jeff Larson. Thank you for watching.